Hey guys, welcome back to another Sunday video. I'm Chris.
And I'm Aaron, and today we are talking about boondocking. So Chris and I have been on the road full-time for just over a year now, and we've kind of had a journey of how we like to travel. We started out on the East Coast in a lot of big cities, and it seemed like we would spend a couple days in the big cities and then maybe, a week or so at campsites?
Yeah.
And in between, we would do Cracker Barrels and Walmarts and also a few state parks.
Yes, and we did a lot of 24-hour parking lots that are downtown in major downtown markets.
New Orleans and Savannah were the two, I think, that stick out.
Yep. Like Philly and Boston and, New York City. Those are all big markets that we did some stealth street camping. And that was really fun. We were bouncing around a lot from city to city. It was really fast paced. We covered a lot of miles. We covered a lot of states. And then we made it over back home to Minnesota and over to the west part of the country where we got to start with a couple national parks at Yosemite, the Grand Tetons.
Yep, where we also did our first kind of boondocking experience, which we'll link that video above and below. And that was kind of an eye-opener. It was a different style of travel, and it was, to be honest, very difficult for us to do in a Class B.
Yeah. And we definitely wanted that to slow it down because up until that point, like I said, we were going so fast and moving. It's like we really did just want to take a step back and breathe.
Yeah, out in nature. But we found that we weren't really equipped to properly boondock for more than like a night or two. So this whole video is going to be about our goal for this year in 2020, which is to do more boondocking and to see more of this beautiful country. And the goal is to be out for about a week at a time. And that's going to be quite difficult in a Class B van. There are a lot of pain points, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Pain points.
First off, let's talk about electrical. So our power system, and talking about electrical, I mean battery, solar, generator. How are you gonna power your vehicle while being off grid? So for us, right off the bat, we upgraded our batteries basically by doubling our AGMs. So we doubled our capacity to 300 amp hours. And for the first half of our travels while doing cities and driving quite a bit, that worked very well. We didn't really have any issues. We're pretty sustainable for a day or two with that battery size.
Because we were driving so frequently and getting a charge during our driving.
Yeah, we were kind of staying in a spot a night or two and then moving on. Or if we were in a spot for like a week or so, it would be at a campsite where we were plugged in. More recently, we've been trying to do a little bit more of the boondocking, and especially at the Escapers Bash, where we were dry camping for a week. We just found that we did not have enough power to work, basically. So we have enough power to run the van and the fridge and the basic systems, but we don't have enough power to charge our laptops, our phones, the hotspot. The heater was a big deal too, because it's very cold in overnight Arizona. It gets down into the 30s, if not the 20s we saw
And I'm a freeze
ago.
baby. So not only is that uncomfortable, obviously we weren't freezing to death. We were fine, but I don't like bundling up and wearing sweatpants and a hoodie and a flannel and 5 blankets to sleep in.
We're trying to live normal.
If I wanted to be roughing it, would be tent camping.
Yes.
And also, I don't like being in dim lighting. A lot of the times we'll have minimal lights on at a minimal dimness just to help preserve everything. So that's another thing. When it's like cold and dark and you just feel kind of off.
Yeah, it gets really frustrating because do you turn on the lights? Do you turn off the lights? Do you keep the hotspot on? Do you turn the hotspot off? There's so many areas where you're just trying to conserve so much power that it just becomes not fun. So we're working and we're not, if we're taking a day off or 2 days or a week off and we were, just out experiencing nature, it could be a lot less. We don't have to worry about
if we were
all the
truly off
electronics.
grid.
Yeah.
But we're not.
No, we're pretty much powering our laptops all day long, so that's a big deal. So if we do have a generator on board, and of course we could run that every day if we wanted to, but we don't. And it seems like every time we want to or we need to run the generator, it'll just be a bad time. There'll be someone that's right next to us. It'll be early in the morning. It'll be late at night. And it's just, we want to use the generator maybe once a week if we have to charge up the batteries for an hour or two. That would be fine. But we don't want to run it daily. That's just not the style we want. Plus, it's mounted right up underneath where we're sitting right now. So when it's on, it's shaking the whole van. And
it affects the mood.
Yeah, you can barely talk. So another point with solar on the Class Bs is you can only fit so many watts on top. We have 300 watts, which is okay, but in the wintertime you get a lot less than max power. A lot of times you're getting half of that, so maybe 150 watts or 500 watt hours per day. Or in the summertime we might get a kilowatt or 1,000 watt hours. So that's basically putting in the wintertime 40 amps back into our battery, or at max 80 amps. So a lot of people have portable panels. Mm-hmm. We see those everywhere, and that would be cool too, but once again we don't have storage for a portable panel. So lots of options out there, but electrical is one of the first systems that we need to tackle to be able to be self-sufficient for a week at a time. Next big category we're going to talk about is tank size. So we've done some videos on tank capacities, but once again, we have a 26-gallon fresh, 27-gallon gray, and 15-gallon black. Very respectable sizes for a Class B van. But it would be nice to maximize that out a little bit. So there's a lot of options that we're kind of kicking around and thinking about. All of these, I think, will be slowly progressive stages as we just kind of tackle one at a time to make boondocking more fun.
Yeah, and our tank, so normally if we were to just plop down in the middle of nowhere, our black tank is the first tank to expire on us. And in situations where you are boondocking with a lot of neighbors, like where we are right now,
yeah,
we're pretty packed on top of each other. And it's not an option for either one of us to just pop outside and take number one in the bushes, because everybody's on top of everybody.
Yeah.
So when you're forced to really use your toilet 100%, then it really doesn't last very long.
Yeah, absolutely. 3-4 days max, maybe. Lots of variables with the black tank. So some options that we're kicking around, possibly a composting toilet. We talked about this a long time ago. We haven't really brought it up again.
Yeah, that's a surprise to me.
Well, the cool thing about a composting toilet is if we could use the urine diverting valve into the black tank,
yeah,
then we could have a 15-gallon black tank still for liquids, and then a composting toilet for solids, and that would definitely boost us out to a week.
Because a traditional composting without that valve for the liquids, we wouldn't want to be dumping a gallon little container.
No,
because we just drink way too much water for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a traditional composting toilet, I don't think we'd ever want that.
Yeah.
Unless you rigged it up like the way you just said.
Also, we could increase the size of our black tank, which could be pretty tricky, but it's an option. So if anybody else has any other thoughts or comments on increasing the black tank, leave them down below. The fresh and the gray tank, I feel like that could last us a week for sure. It's just very minimal showers, if not, using washcloths and wipes at times. Also, carrying drinking water on board. We would probably need to get like one of those collapsible bladders and bring more fresh water on. And I think we could easily have our fresh and gray last us a week. I think that'll be an easy category.
Also, doing certain food preparations before you get onto your boondocking site will help with the amount of dishes that you're doing. So that's definitely something that you can calculate and formulate ahead of time, just to alleviate the amount of water that you spend washing dishes, cooking specifically.
Next up, let's talk about garbage. This isn't something that we really heard that much about when we were kind of researching.
It really does kind of just get like under the radar. People don't talk about waste as a pain point for boondocking.
Maybe it's more a point to being in a van and less about big rigs or trucks and trailers. Because inside a van, we don't have anywhere to really store our garbage besides where we're living. So we have the little tiny garbage can. And then one sweet option we saw a couple weeks ago was on Cass's base camp, and she has a what's it called, a trasharoo.
I don't know the name, but it was an exterior trash bag that would be affixed on the back of our door here, like on an exterior ladder, which if we put a ladder up, that would be great because we would use it to get on the roof, and then you could use that ladder to store an exterior trash bag.
Yeah.
Just to get the trash out of here, because it does add up quick, even when you're being mindful about it. Like, when you're in a tiny space, the last thing you want to be doing is moving trash bags around, which is exactly what we are doing currently.
Yes.
We do have some approaches that helps us minimize waste, such as, like, when I go to the grocery store before we come out here, I get rid of all the big bulky packaging and transfer it into my own packaging that's smaller, doesn't take up waste when I go through those products.
Next up on the pain point list is cell phone coverage and 4G internet. We use a Verizon hotspot along with T-Mobile cell phones, and we have a couple different antennas we use. We use a MIMO antenna and then also the WeBoost cell booster. So those work pretty well for us, but honestly, there's a lot of internet coverage, cell coverage out there. It's becoming easier and easier to find, and then also with great apps like Campendium, you can find it a lot easier.
Next up, food and water. We touched a little bit on the water where you could pull it from your tank directly, or if you want to extend your tank, you could bring some collapsible bladders on board for drinking or refilling your tank. We drink a ton of water and we never pay for water unless it's in a bubbly canned form. So that's something that we definitely like to consider. I mean, this week, for example, Aaron has literally said he's drinking, that he's limiting his water intake so that he doesn't pee as much. And it's like, well, that's a terrible...
The two go hand in hand, and I know my coach did not...
I did not like hearing that.
I know, and it was a bad thing to say, but it's true. I was drinking less water because I'm trying to conserve the water and the tank capacity, and it's not a good thing to do, but I'm being honest here.
Yeah, so the water, I mean, your consumption varies, but I encourage drinking a lot of water, and then it's up to you. Like, do you want to drink out of your tank? Do you only drink bottled water? Are you a water snob? I don't know. We're not a water snob. We'll drink anything. We filter it.
We filter the water twice coming in from the hose, and then on board we also filter it with our Brita pitcher.
And then the next topic, food. This is something I'm really passionate about. So I mentioned when I'm at the parking lot of Costco or whatever, I repackage the food so that I can eliminate bulky waste. At the same time, that allows me to really get more fresh foods into my fridge. I can really cram that sucker full. In fact, I think my fridge packing skills are really impressive, and there's an art to it, and you just get a little bit better and better as you practice it. Like, for example, I had these huge chicken breast packages from Costco, and it was like 5 pounds per package. And what I did was I cut the breasts out, I trimmed them down to manageable pieces, got rid of all that chicken juice, got rid of all that excess packaging, put in my own Ziplocs. That way when we're out boondocking, we don't have chicken juice sitting in our tanks getting stinky or sitting in our garbage getting reeky, and condensing space, doing as much food prep before you hit your destination. And it really, by doing the food prep, you are covering off on so many issues. You're covering off on your health, you're covering off on waste, you're covering off on fridge space, you're covering off on like convenience, time, routine, like so many things. So like this is one area where if you can master this, you are going to really alleviate a lot of pain points.
Next topic. Let's talk about the locations and the convenience levels of some of these BLMs or forestry lands. If it takes a half an hour to get to the spot, that would be fine if you're having the tank size and the capacities to stay there for a week or 2 weeks. But right now we're having to leave every few days to dump the tanks or, so it matters how remote it is. And we want it to be remote, but we also want it to be easy access. I guess that's the balance that we're trying to find. In a perfect world, it's going to be super remote, nobody's there, and it takes 2 seconds to get to. So, for example, the place we're at right now is called Snyder Hill, right outside of Tucson, and it is super convenient to get to stores and dump stations and water and Planet Fitness, and there's a Costco.
Which is why it's so congested.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people here. There's people in every kind of like car or rig or tent or trailer, fifth wheel, motorhome. Like we saw some overland vehicles that were pretty sweet from like Europe, and there's just a lot of variety here because it's so popular, which makes it a little less fun and a little less enjoyable.
Well, it kind of makes it feel like it removes the specialness from it. Like it's not just your secret place anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And the whole reason we want to get out and do more boondocking is so we can get out and go on like hikes every day and see some beautiful scenery and climb up some big mountains and hills and things like that. And right now all we have is Snyder Hill, and it's not very big, and we've already summited it multiple times. Also, another factor is weather. Of course, there's seasonalities between summer and winter, and even as it gets colder, you have to run your furnace more, and it's just a little less fun to be outside when the weather is kind of crappy out. So it's just something you have to consider, and when you get cooped up in a van for a couple days because it's cold and rainy, it just becomes less enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Especially like us when we have our workout routine, and if you're cooped up, we have our clam tent for working out in the rain. But where we're at right now, we don't even have the space or ground to put that up.
Yeah, and it's not really controllable, the weather, so it's just something to think about. And speaking of routines, that's kind of our last point here, which is affected by all of these different things we're talking about today, is how well you can establish a routine. And for us, we find it's very important. So if our routine is messed up, we just don't have as much fun. We start to fight a little bit more and
get a little cranky.
Yeah, we're just not.
Uh-oh.
How you doing? Yeah, and that is a great point of how close we are to town, where we just had a local guy who delivers water come out to this BLM boondocking spot, and he's interested in getting customers so that he can deliver water to them. So
or pick up trash.
Or do trash, yeah. That's just kind of unique, so it gives you a different spin on boondocking.
It's like city boondocking.
Yeah, very interesting. So we're learning a lot. This is very interesting, and we're very excited about this year upcoming and changing and learning. There's so much out here to like learn and do, and we're just getting started with this, so it's great. Back to the routine part. I just wanted to say this is really important to us. So all these other factors we need to kind of get buttoned up and address so that we can get our routine back and we can make boondocking work for us.
we need to be efficient and we need to be happy and, you know, like not sitting and thinking about every little anxiety source.
Yeah, all these little pain points just hit you, and when they're all lined up in a row, then it just becomes like, where's the RV park?
Yeah,
Let's
it's
go.
like, let's go back to the RV park.
Yeah, so we're very excited this year to expand on our boondocking experience. So look for more of the videos addressing these topics that we're going to be
Covering.
hopefully alleviating and improving as this year goes on, so that we can stay out more and more and more and have longer trips and go out to more unique places and see more.
Yeah,
So anything else?
that's about it.
You sure? All right. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. We really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you like the content, don't forget to subscribe. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
So, what did I say? What did I say about being self-sufficient?
Self-sufficient.
Are you drinking? Were you drinking this morning?
Not yet.